chaos on the streets of its greatest cities, Chicago, Portland, and beyond. In the eye of the storm is a precedent threatening to unleash the Insurrection Act. What is this law? What power does it give the president? And why is it stirring fierce controversy today? In recent weeks, cities like Portland, Oregon, and Chicago, Illinois have become battlegrounds. Protests against the federal immigration crackdown have escalated into clashes with heavily armed federal agents. To restore law and order, President Donald Trump ordered the deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops, a move hailed by some, condemned by others, but courts and local leaders are pushing back, blocking troop deployments and calling the president's actions authoritarian.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Now, in response to these legal setbacks and resistance, US President Donald Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, a sweeping law passed more than 2 centuries ago. The stakes, the future of federal power over local governments, the delicate balance between security and civil liberty, the very soul of American democracy. In a rare Oval Office address, President Trump declared,
"Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe."
Passed in 1807, the Insurrection Act is one of the rare exceptions to the Posse Comitatus Act, the law that generally prohibits military involvement in civilian law enforcement. It grants the president emergency powers to deploy federal troops to suppress insurrection, domestic violence, or obstruction of federal laws, sometimes even without state approval. It's an extraordinary power, one rarely used in American history and always controversial. Upon request of a state's governor or legislature, if the president deems it necessary to enforce federal law, to suppress insurrection or domestic violence that local authorities cannot control, or when a state resists or obstructs federal action to uphold the law. The Insurrection Act has been called upon nearly 30 times by presidents from Abraham Lincoln to George H.W. Bush. It played a pivotal role in ending the Ku Klux Klan's violent reign after the Civil War and was crucial in enforcing school desegregation during the 1950s and 60s. Most recently, former President George H.W. Bush invoked the act to restore order during the 1992 Los Angeles riots following widespread civil unrest. Today, US President Trump's push to deploy the National Guard to Portland and Chicago has sparked fierce resistance.
This president is dangerous, absolute dangerous, and he is a threat to our democracy and our humanity.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker called it an authoritarian march, saying there's no insurrection here.
The plan all along has been to cause chaos, and then they can use that chaos to consolidate Donald Trump's power. They think they can fool us all into thinking that the way to get out of this crisis that they created is to give them free rein. Well, that plan will only work if we let it. The state of Illinois is going to use every lever at our disposal to resist this power grab and get Noam's thugs the hell out of Chicago.
Portland's Governor Tina Kotek described the deployment as unlawful and dangerous. California Governor Gavin Newsom secured a court victory blocking federal troops in his state, calling the president's order unlawful. Members of Congress have also weighed in. Representative Adam Schiff warns that Los Angeles was only the prototype, with Chicago and Portland as next testing grounds. He condemns the military deployments as unconstitutional and un-American abuse of our troops.
The playbook was Los Angeles. We saw this earlier this year in Los Angeles, the deployment of California's own National Guard over the objection of the governor, over the objection of the mayor of Los Angeles used against our own citizens. It was struck down by a lower court, although that lower court order was held in abeyance by the Supreme Court of the United States. And now that misuse of the military is being used elsewhere. In fact, in Los Angeles, not only were the National Guard not even necessary, not even useful, but the president declared they were successful even before they arrived. And of course, they were taken away from more important missions, like the military mission our Marines have, who were deployed to Los Angeles, or other efforts that the California National Guard ought to be used for, like dealing with natural disasters. This is, of course, part of what the president was talking about when he spoke to generals last week and admirals and told them that he was going to use the military to go after the enemy within, that he was going to use American cities as military training grounds. And looking at that footage from Chicago tells you exactly what he was talking about.
On the streets, the situation is tense and volatile. Heavily armed federal agents patrol neighborhoods. Protesters face off against officers. A city divided between demands for safety and fears of militarization. A recent CBS poll shows 58% of Americans oppose deploying the National Guard to their cities. This leaves a critical question looming. If the Insurrection Act is fully invoked, it could authorize broad military involvement in domestic affairs, deploying soldiers in American neighborhoods, patrolling streets, enforcing federal law by force. Supporters say it's necessary to stop chaos and protect federal employees. Opponents warn it threatens civil liberties and the right to protest.
And this law, the Posse Comitatus Act, is one of the most important protections that we have for democracy and individual liberty in this country. It is what stops the president from using the military as a domestic police force. It can become a very powerful tool of oppression and tyranny, and at a minimum, using the military to police American citizens chills the exercise of rights that we all have as Americans in this country.
Legal experts note the Insurrection Act's language is vague, granting the president broad discretion. Critics call for reform to limit this power and ensure checks and balances. The courts have already intervened, blocking troop deployments in Oregon, but battles are far from over. Beyond the politics and legal battles, millions of Americans are caught in the middle. Communities demand safety, but fear the rise of a militarized presence in their daily lives.
I think of ICE is the President Trump way of cleaning up and, giving the citizens, that the people that's here, that want to be here, a chance to get in because they got so much connection, they throwing us away.
It's racist. That's racist. The president taking these choices is a little bit, again, ridiculous.
Overruling the will of the state and the locality to federalize National Guards from other states to invade a state, that is an act of civil war. I mean, that, from the regime side, is an act of civil war. That should be clear. That should be clear to anyone who believes in any of the amendments to the Constitution, and the people who say don't tread on me, states' rights. Sure. Where are you now?
The question remains, how will America balance security with the sacred rights of its people? President Trump stands at a pivotal moment to either pull back the troops and heal the nation or invoke a powerful law that could deepen division and reshape American cities forever. For the first time in decades, the Insurrection Act looms over American streets. The nation watches and waits. Will this be a moment of restoration or a turning point towards a more militarized future? This is America. This is 2025. And the story is far from over.